चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गे राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we'll go ahead with Chapter 9, The Passing of Bhishmadev, text 32. So, very beautiful devotional prayers of Bhishmadev as he's remembering the Supreme Lord just before his passing away from this world. So, very instructive. As we were discussing yesterday, he's teaching us art of leaving this world in a totally Krishna conscious way. So Prabhupada also is giving some very beautiful purports to each of these verses. So essentially we are going to see some important points from Prabhupada's purports. श्री भीष्म उवाच इति मतिरुपकल्पिता कृष्णा भगवती सात्वतपुङ्गवे विभुग्नि स्वसुखम् उपगते क्वचित् विहर्तुं प्रकृतिम् उपेयुषि यद्भव प्रवाह। Bhishmadev said, "Let me now invest my thinking, feeling and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending on the material world, although from him only the material world is created." So, iti mati upakalpita vitrishna. Vitrishna. So he wants to be freed from all trishna, hankering for material sense objects. And he wants his mati, his consciousness, to be fully invested in Bhagavati, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he is describing some of the qualities of the Supreme Lord. What are they? Satvate Pungave. Satvati, that is the devotees. So the leader of the devotees. And Swasukham, satisfied in himself, self-satisfied. And Kvachit Vihartum Prakritim Upeyushi. So he descends into Prakriti, in the material world. Nobody forces him. For his own transcendental pleasure, he descends into this material world. Even though Yad Bhava Pravaha, even though this material world is created and annihilated by him only, but still, for his own transcendental pleasure and pastimes, he descends into this material world. So in this way, Bhishma Dev is focusing his entire consciousness on the Supreme Lord, his thinking, feeling, willing, everything. He is focusing on the Supreme Lord. A few points from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Because Bhishma Dev was a statesman, the head of the Kuru dynasty, a great general and leader of Kshatriyas, his mind was strewn over so many subjects, and his thinking, feeling, and willing were engaged in different matters. Now, in order to achieve pure devotional service, he wanted to invest all powers of thinking, feeling, and willing entirely in the Supreme Being, Lord Krishna. He is described herein as the leader of the devotees and all-powerful. Although Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, he himself descends on earth to bestow upon his pure devotees the boon of devotional service. He descends sometimes as Lord Krishna as he is, and sometimes as Lord Chaitanya. The Lord is the chief among such Sattvikas. Bhishma Dev therefore had no other desires. Unless one is purified from all sorts of material desires, the Lord does not become one's leader. That's an important point for us to note and apply. Unless one is purified from all sorts of material desires, the Lord does not become one's leader. So one has to be purified of desires, or the desires have to be purified. Prabhupada is further describing. Desires cannot be wiped out, but they have only to be purified. So the material desires have to be converted into spiritual desires. Further down, Prabhupada is explaining with the help of an example. He is the leader of all the living beings, as the king of the state rules both the prisoners and the free citizens. But his dealings are different in terms of devotee and non-devotee. Non-devotees never care to take any instruction from the Lord, and therefore the Lord is silent in their case, although he witnesses all their activities and awards them the necessary results, good or bad. The devotees are above this material goodness and badness. They are progressive on the path of transcendence, and therefore they have no desire for anything material. The devotee also knows Sri Krishna as the original Narayan, because Lord Sri Krishna, by splendid portion, appears as Karnodaksha Vishnu, the original source of all material creation. The Lord also desires the association of his pure devotees, and for them only the Lord descends on the earth and enlivens them. And then the Lord appears out of his own will. He is not forced by the conditions of material nature. Okay, commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti on the verse. Please read.
At the end of my life, iti, my thoughts are offered to the Lord. Since my Master has come to me at the time of my passing away under the influence of his mercy, I must give him a gift. There is nothing suitable in this abode of possessiveness and ego. Therefore, I make a gift of my thoughts alone. But in this world we see people who give also desire to take. My thoughts are without desire, Vitrishna. I offer them to Bhagavan, who is full of 6 wondrous qualities. But the Lord is famous as Narayan. No, he is famous as the best of the Yadu dynasty. But Narayan is greatly famous as Bhagavan for all time. There is no greatness superior to his, Vibhumni. He is the source of Narayan. He attained Gate profusely, Upa, the highest bliss, Sukham, with his own Yadavas and Pandavas. So, the main qualities of the Lord have thus been described. Next, the secondary qualities are described. You contact Maya by glancing for evolving Mahat Tattva, from which arises the sequence of material creation. You do this in your forms of the Purusha avatars.
So in this way, he's describing the various qualities. Here he's giving a slightly different meaning of Svasukham. So Svasukham, one meaning is that Krishna is satisfied in himself like Atmaram. But here he's giving another meaning. He is the source of, he attained profusely the highest bliss with his own Yadavas and Pandavas. So that's another meaning. So he doesn't, so with his own people he achieved happiness. He didn't have to deal with some other people to get happiness. So in this way, here he's making a nice point, making a gift of one's thoughts. So that is the best gift one can offer to the Lord. At the end of my life, my thoughts are offered to the Lord. Thoughts, one's consciousness, everything is being offered. That's the ultimate goal. Man mana, Krishna is telling. Man mana. Give your mind to me. That is Krishna's instruction also. Give your mind to me. Man mana. So actually he gives a similar commentary to the Man mana verse also actually. So man mana. So there also he describes that Krishna is saying, give your mind as a gift to me. So there also he gives a similar meaning. Huh?
Can you show?
Oh, that will take time. Okay. But he gives a similar meaning there also. Okay, text 33. So now, so in the previous verse, in text 32, he described how one's consciousness, mind must be fixed in thoughts of the Lord. I'm just wondering, all of you are sitting a little bit separated looks like. थोड़ा इधर आ जाओ ना, यहाँ बहुत सारे खाली सीट पड़े हुए हैं. So now in the next verse he is describing the beautiful form of Krishna. Tribhuvanakamanam tamalavarnam ravikara gauravara ambaram dadane vapuralaga kulavritananabjam vijaya sake ratirastu me anavadya. Shri Krishna is the intimate friend. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face, covered with of sandalwood, desire fruitive results. And so he's addressing Arjuna. Arjuna is always victorious, so therefore he's called Vijaya, Vijaya Sakhe. So he knows this principle. Therefore he's addressing him as Vijaya Sakhe. And Tribhuvana Kamanam. So in all the three worlds, Tribhuvana, he is the most desirable object because he is the most beautiful. And he's describing his beauty, Tamalavarnam, bluish like the tamal tree. And then Ravikara Gauravara Ambaram, Ambaram Dadani. So Varambaram means the dress, and the color is Gaura, like Ravikara, the sun rays. And on his body there is also Alaka, Kula, Avrita. So sandalwoods, Alaka, Kula. And his face is Anana Abjam, like a lotus. And so Rati Astu, may my attraction, my Rati, be towards him. But at the same time, again he's praying, what? Anavadya, without desire for fruitive results. So in the previous verse also he had said what? Vitrishna. And here also he is saying Anavadya. So we can see again and again, he is praying to the Lord that his attraction to the Lord should be without hankering for fruitive results, material desires. Why? Because if one has material desires, then one will have to come back to this material world. One cannot achieve perfection if one has some material desires. So therefore he's praying again that my attraction to the Lord should be unalloyed, pure, without any contamination, material desires. We discussed this many times, 4.6 Bhagavad Gita. And then he says, nowhere in the universe Lord Krishna. It has nothing to do with anything materially created. Arjuna is described here as conqueror and Krishna is described as his intimate friend, that is Vijay Sakhi. And then Bhishma Dev on his bed of arrows after the battle of Kurukshetra is remembering the particular dress of Lord Krishna which he puts on as the driver of Arjuna's chariot. So he's remembering that dress. While fighting was going on between Arjuna and Bhishma, Bhishma's attraction was drawn by the glittering dress of Krishna and indirectly he admired his so-called enemy Arjuna for possessing the Lord as his friend. Arjuna was always a conqueror because the Lord was his friend. Bhishma Dev took this opportunity to address the Lord as Vijaya Sakhi, friend of Arjuna, because the Lord is pleased when he is addressed conjointly with his devotees who are related with him in different transcendental humors. And then Prabhupada is describing about rasa and relationship with the Lord. Okay, fine. 34. Yudhituragarajo vidhumra vishva kachalulita shramavārya alankritasye mama nishita share vividyamana Tvachi vilasatavachestu Krishna Atma. On the battlefield where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hoofs of the horses. And because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna. So his mind is totally focused on the form of Krishna, especially the form of Krishna on the battlefield. So that is the form he is remembering. Okay, we can read this purport. Nice purport.
Hare Krishna. The Lord is absolute form of eternity, bliss and knowledge. As such, transcendental loving service to Lord in one of the five principal relations, namely Sankhya Dasya, Shanta Dasya, Sakhya Vatsalya and Madhurya. That is neutrality, servitorship, fraternity, parental affection and conjugal love is graciously accepted by the Lord when offered to Lord in genuine love and affection. Sri Bhishma Dev is a great devotee of Lord in the relation of servitorship. Thus his throwing of sharp arrows at the transcendental body of Lord is as good as worship of another devotee who throws soft roses upon him. It appears that Vishnu Dev is repenting the actions of he committed against the person of Lord. But actually the Lord's body was not at all pain due to his transcendental existence. His body is not matter, both he himself and his body are complete spiritual identity. Spirit is never pierced, burned and dried, moistened, etc. This is vividly explained in Bhagavad Gita. So also it is stated in Skanda Purana. Is stressed, nor can it be dried up. When Lord Vishnu in his incarnation appears before us, he seems to be like one of the conditioned souls, materially engaged just to bewilder the asuras or the non-bewilderers who are always alert to kill the Lord even from the very beginning of his appearance. Kamsa wanted to kill Krishna, and Ravan wanted to kill Ram because foolishly they were unaware of the fact that the Lord is never killed, or the spirit is never annihilated. Therefore, Bhishmadeva's piercing of the Lord of the body of Lord Krishna is sort of bewildering problem for the non-devotee atheist. But those who are devotee or liberated souls are not bewildered. Vishnudev appreciated the all merciful attitude of the Lord because he did not leave Arjun alone. Although he was disturbed by the sharpened arrows of Vishnudev, nor was he reluctant to come before Vishnudeva's deathbed, even though he was ill treated by him on the battlefield. Bhishma's repentance and Lord's merciful attitude are both unique in this picture. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, a great acharya and devotee in humor of conjugal love with Lord, remarks very saliently in this regard. He says that the wound created on the body of Lord by sharpened arrows of Vishnudev were as pleasing to Lord as biting fiancé who bites the Lord's body, directed by a strong sense of sex desire. Such a biting by the opposite sex is never taken as sign of enmity, even if there is wound on the body. Therefore, the fighting as an exchange of transcendental pleasure between Lord and his pure devotee, Sri Vishmadev, was not at all mundane. Besides that, since Lord's body and Lord are identical, there was no possibility of wound in absolute body. The apparent wound caused by sharpened arrows are misleading to common man. But one who has a little absolute knowledge can understand the transcendental exchange in chivalrous relation. The Lord was perfectly happy with wound caused by sharpened arrows of Vishmadev. Word Vividhyaman is significant because the Lord's skin is not different from Lord. Because our skin is different from our soul. In our case, the word Vividhyaman or being brushed and cut would have been quite suitable. Transcendental bliss is of different varieties, and the variety of activities in the mundane world is but perverted reflection of transcendental bliss. Because everything in the mundane world is qualitatively mundane. It is full of
inebrities.
Whereas in the absolute realm, because everything is of the same absolute nature, there are varieties of enjoyment without inebrities. The Lord enjoyed the wound created by his great devotee Vishnudev. And because Vishnudev is a devotee in the chivalrous relation, he fixed up his mind on Krishna in that wounded condition.
Okay, so here Bhishmadev is remembering Krishna on the battlefield, that how The horses, they raised the dust, and the dust turned his hair into ashen color. And there was Shramabari Alankrita. So his face was decorated with the beads of perspiration because he's doing a lot of hard work. But how the Lord gets fatigued also? So he's having perspiration and he's also having wounds with some blood. How this is possible? So Krishna is playing Naralila. So whole drama is going on, Naralila. So he's playing the role of an ordinary human being. And so therefore, the non-devotees, atheists, Mayavadis, they get bewildered. They think, oh, you see, ordinary body. So Krishna is doing all this to bewilder them. So that they get confirmation, yes, Krishna is material body. But then only the devotees can understand that all this is Leela happening. So when drama takes place, everything has to be perfect. No? Otherwise, if things are not perfect in the drama, then it looks very odd. So therefore, Krishna makes the performance perfect. Everything is perfect in the performance. But we have to understand that yes, Krishna's body is always transcendental. So therefore, all this is simply drama going on. So, he's remembering all this. And so as the Acharyas are explaining, that this remembrance also indicates his repentance. So he's also repenting that, oh, I shot arrows at the Lord's body and the Lord had wounds. I created wounds on the Lord's body. So he's repenting for it. At the same time, he's also thinking, but even though I did this, even though I created wounds in the Lord's body, but still the Lord is so merciful that now at the time of my passing away, he has come to see me. So on one hand, he's repenting, and on the other hand, he is also taking into consideration the merciful nature of the Lord. So he is not, the Lord didn't think, oh, this useless Bhishma Dev, he created so many wounds on my body. Why should I go? So he didn't think like that. So he's thinking that, yes, but he's devotee. So he was only doing his service according to Krishna's plan. And so therefore, he's also thinking of the merciful nature of the Lord. So as Prabhupada writes, he was ill-treated by him on the battlefield. Bhishma's repentance and the Lord's merciful attitude are both unique in this picture. So, and then the other important point is that how Prabhupada is saying that throwing of sharp arrows is as good as worship of another devotee who throws soft roses. Why? Because Krishna, he enjoys different types of relationships, variety. Prabhupada often quoted, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So therefore, Krishna has so many varieties of relationships with so many devotees. Therefore, he is called as, yes, Rasaraj. In Nectar of Devotion, what is it? Yes, Akhila Rasamrita Murti. The embodiment of all the rasas. All rasas. How many rasas? Yes, 5 primary, 7 secondary. So therefore you see at the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada says, Sri Bhishma Dev is a great devotee of the Lord in the relation of servitorship. So that is the primary rasa. Dasya. That is primary. But along with that, there is a secondary rasa. What is that? Viras. That is the secondary rasa. So the primary rasa is of servitorship, dasya. So essentially he wants to serve. But how he wants to serve? Yes, in the Viraras. So that is the secondary rasa. And so therefore, because this is the relationship between Krishna and Bhishma, so even though Bhishma is shooting arrows at Krishna, Krishna is, even though the wounds are only a show, but it's not that Krishna is pained by those arrows. Rather, he's relishing it. Just like somebody throws soft roses. So all these different relationships are relished by the Lord. So Krishna wants variety. And because such variety of relationships exist in the spiritual world, therefore there are variety of relationships even in the material worlds. Because this is perverted reflection. So therefore people like to have variety of relationships here also. Correct. So therefore, so many relationships people have. So all the rasas are there in the material world also. Correct? All the 12 rasas are there even in the material world. People go to see horror movies. Why? That is also one of the rasa. Bhayanak ras. One of the secondary rasa, Bhayanak ras. Of course, if some friend takes on the Bhayanak ras, then that's another thing. So, but essentially the point is that people like these variety of relationships. Therefore, people get married and have so many variety of relationships. Then somebody may say, then as brahmacharis, how do we relish all those variety of relationships? What's that? Okay, with other brahmacharis, okay, what rasa will be there? At the most, some Sakya ras will be there. As long as it is favorable, it's okay. So then how brahmacharis can relish all these rasas? By reading Bhagavatam, what will happen? By reading Bhagavatam, what will happen? How you relish all these rasas? Yes, that's correct. So, because by reading about Krishna having all these various rasas, we can also have the satisfaction of that experience. Because Krishna, everything is absolute. So when we read about all these rasas which Krishna is having with all his devotees, then we can also feel fully satisfied. Because Krishna is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. So if we focus our attention on Krishna, then we can have the satisfaction of all the relationships. Because Krishna is the embodiment of all the relationships. So it's not that we actually have to have an experience, because in any case, all the relationships in the material world are all material and perverted. So perverted means what? Yes, perverted means not real. So what will be the result? Yes. The result of all these relationships within the material worlds, without Krishna in the center, will simply lead to miseries and dissatisfaction. They are perverted relationships. They can never satisfy the soul. That is what we find in the material world. Without Krishna in the center, which relationship gives satisfaction? No relationship gives satisfaction. And therefore, what do we find in this world? There are fights and quarrels between husband and wife, brothers and brothers, brothers and sisters, parents and children, fathers and sons. Any relationship you take, there is no pleasure in the relationship, it's only misery. And the topmost relationship in the spiritual world, that is Madhurya Ras, in the material world, most abominable. So that is how the
Arjuna, his intimate friend, but factually it was for the good of Arjuna's enemies. Such are transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord, and whoever understands these also gets salvation after quitting this material world. The Lord does no wrong in any circumstances because he is absolute, all good at all times.
Yes. The Lord does no wrong in any circumstance because He is absolute, all good at all times. So if we are seeing that, or if you are perceiving that Krishna is doing something wrong, it is appearing as if Krishna is doing something wrong, then what is the cause of that? Huh? Yes, our lack of understanding. You remember Prabhupada's famous statement? Invocation of Ishopanishad. Incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. उसका आगे क्या है?
In the introduction also Prabhupada writes,
Okay, but this is a very classic statement. All forms of incompleteness are due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. So if we are perceiving anything incomplete in this world, यहाँ कुछ गलती हो रहा है, वहाँ कुछ गलती हो नहीं. It is only because incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. Therefore, we perceive some incompleteness, something wrong is happening. But Lord does no wrong in any circumstance because He is absolute, all good at all times. So even though He is glancing at the enemy, but the enemy gets benefits and they also get liberation, salvation because of that. So Bhishma Dev is remembering. Text 36. Vyavahita pritana mukham nirikshya svajanavadha vinukasya dosha buddhya kumatim maharad atma vidyayash charanarati paramasya tasya mestu. When Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance upon observing the soldiers and commanders before him on the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain the object of my attraction. So we know Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance. So that also was a drama. Arjuna can never be put into ignorance, but he was apparently put into ignorance so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. Prabhupada is speaking about fighting and how the fight was supposed to take place outside the city where the citizens are not harmed. But that is not the case these days. And towards the end, Prabhupada says, apparently Arjuna's intelligence became polluted because otherwise there would not have been a chance to deliver the teachings of Bhagavad Gita for the good of all polluted conditioned souls engaged in material bondage by the conception of the false material body. Okay. Text 37. Swanigamam apahaya mat pratīඥam ऋतमधिकत्वम् अवकृतो व्रतस्तः धृतरथचरणो अभ्ययाच्चलद्गुर् हरिरिव हन्तुमिहं गतोत्तरीयः. Fulfilling my desire and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel, and ran towards me hurriedly, just as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He even dropped his outer garment on the way. So we know this pastime. Ratanga Pawani. So just to protect Bhishma's promise, he broke his own promise. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, of course, there was no possibility of Arjuna's death because the Lord himself was on the chariot. But because Bhishma Dev wanted to see Lord Krishna take up some weapon to save his friend, the Lord created this situation, making Arjuna's death imminent. He stood before Bhishma Dev to show him that his promise was fulfilled and that he had taken up the wheel. So again, everything is to facilitate the Viryaras, so that Bhishma Dev could see this form of Krishna taking up the wheel and charging towards him with so much of anger. So when Bhishma Dev he sees that scene, he is very happy to see it because of the Viryaras. And so therefore, the whole situation was orchestrated by the Lord so that this pure devotee Bhishma Dev could be satisfied. पीछे कौन बैठा? आ गया? There's some other rasa is going on behind. हाँ रासबिहारी वो आप भी आ गया तो यहाँ एक आ जाओ, वहाँ एक आ जाओ, यहाँ चेयर छोड़ दो, चेयर छोड़ो, यहाँ चेयर है, बहुत चेयर है, यहाँ एक आ जाओ. हाँ गोपालान प्रो कम दिस साइड.
For his devotee. When Arjuna would be unable to fight, Krishna would give his promise and use weapons to protect Arjuna. It is impossible for others to make Arjuna unable to fight. Thus, overpowering Arjuna for a moment, I will see Krishna fight as an indication of his affection for his devotee. Bhishma made this promise that Krishna should take up weapons in order to fulfill this desire. Having seen Krishna's prema for Arjuna when he broke his own promise and satisfying Bhishma, Krishna's excellence became famous in the world. That is the meaning of this incident.
So, this incident is very famous, where Krishna specifically shows what? His Bhaktavatsal nature. Krishna makes kuch matlab ka nahi. This person, he will say one thing today, tomorrow he will break his promise. So therefore he told Arjuna to take, because if devotee makes a declaration, then Krishna will do anything to uphold that declaration of his devotee. So this verse and pastime specifically indicates the Bhaktavatsal nature, and that is what Bhishma Dev wanted to see. And therefore he is saying here, unable to fight. It is not possible. So, thus overpowering Arjuna for a moment, I will see Krishna fight. So, therefore, Bhishma Dev fought so valiantly, he wanted to see how Bhaktavatsa. So, that is what Bhishma Dev, he wanted to see, and he sees, and that is what he is glorifying over here. Text 38. Shitabhishikahata madvadhatham sabhavatu me bhagavan. As if angry because dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield Krishna on the battlefields. So here, and at enmity with Bhishma Dev. But factually, all this was especially meant to show special favor to Bhishma Dev, a great devotee of the Lord. The astounding feature of such dealings is that a devotee can please the Lord by playing the part of an enemy. Who's the other example? Played the part of enemy? Yes, Jay and Vijay. So they were also devotees, but just to give pleasure to the Lord, they are also Viryaras. They played the part of an enemy. The Lord, being absolute, can accept service from his pure devotee even in the garb of an enemy. And so therefore, the important lesson for us to learn is, as Prabhupada said it in many lectures, all services are on the absolute platform. We can serve Krishna and please Krishna by any service. It is not that only some service or some specific type of service will please Krishna. Any service which is done with the proper motivation, the proper mood to please Krishna, then Krishna is pleased by that service. So it's not that only a specific type of service will please Krishna. No. And in any capacity. Somebody may have the capacity of Hanuman, somebody may have the capacity of the squirrel, but if one is putting one's maximum capacity and trying to please Krishna through that service, then Krishna can be pleased. So that is the important point Prabhupada is making here. The Lord, being absolute, can accept service from his pure devotee even in the garb of an enemy. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, we read about Dukhi. She was doing such a simple service of simply getting water for the Lord's Abhishek. But still the Lord was pleased. Okay. Prabhupada says, and those who have no information of pure devotional service cannot penetrate the mystery of such dealings. Bhishma Dev played the part of a valiant warrior, and he purposely pierced the body of the Lord so that to the common eyes it appeared that the Lord was wounded. But factually, all this was to bewilder the non-devotees. The all-spiritual body cannot be wounded, and a devotee cannot become the enemy of the Lord. Had it been so, Bhishma Dev would not have desired to have the very same Lord as the ultimate destination of his life. So, Bhishma Dev is wounding the Lord. If he was doing it simply as an enemy, then why now he wants to meditate on that? So that was not inimical, but that was simply to relish the Viraras. That was the only purpose. And had Bhishma Dev been an enemy of the Lord, Lord Krishna could have annihilated him without even moving. So if Bhishma Dev actually was an enemy, how much time it takes for the Lord to finish off someone? Simply by his desire, somebody can be finished. So therefore, it goes to show that Bhishma Dev was not actually an enemy, but the whole thing was simply a leela for the rasa, to exchange the Viraras between the Lord and his devotee. There was no need to come before Bhishma Dev with blood and wounds, but he did so because the warrior devotee wanted to see the transcendental beauty of the Lord decorated with wounds created by a pure devotee. So Bhishma Dev wanted to see the scene of the Lord's body being wounded. That is the Viraras. And therefore, the Lord also, he came before Bhishma Dev with all the wounds and blood. One of the qualities of the Lord's body mentioned in the Ishopanishad is what? There are 8 qualities mentioned, right? One of them is Ashnaviram. Ashnaviram means? Yes, the Lord does not have any veins with blood flowing. Then where the blood came from? He does not have veins only. Ashnaviram. No veins, arteries, nothing is there. There's no blood flowing. So the whole thing is a drama. So just like in Bollywood movies or in some dramas, they show blood, no? Huh? जो भी है. So the drama is there, as if there's blood. So similarly here Krishna is also showing drama. For what? Just to please Bhishma Dev. Because Bhishma Dev wanted to see the scene of Krishna having blood on his body, wounds. So this is the way of exchanging transcendental rasa or relations between the Lord and the servitor. By such dealings, both the Lord and the devotee become glorified in their respective positions. And the Lord was so angry. Now again, how can the Lord become angry? The Lord is transcendental to the modes. So again, this anger was not anger being influenced by some Rajogun Tamogun. This anger is transcendental anger. Again, the whole thing is just to please Bhishma Dev. The Lord was so angry that Arjuna checked him when he was moving towards Bhishma Dev. But in spite of Arjuna's checking, he proceeded towards Bhishma Dev as a lover goes to a lover without caring for hindrances. Apparently his determination was to kill Bhishma Dev. Apparently it appears as if the Lord wanted to kill Bhishma Dev. But how the Lord will kill his devotee? But factually it was to please him as a great devotee of the Lord. So that's the relationship. The Lord wants to please the devotee wants to please the Lord. The Lord is undoubtedly the deliverer of all conditioned souls. The impersonalists desire salvation from him, and he always awards them according to the aspiration. But here Bhishma Dev aspires to see the Lord in his personal feature. All pure devotees aspire for this. Text 39. Vijayarata kutumba atatotre dhrutahaya rashmini tachshriye kshaniye bhagavati ratirastu me mumurshur yamina niriksha hatagata swarupam. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. Yam iha niriksha athagata swarupam. So those nirikshan, those who saw Krishna on the battlefield, they got their original forms. Of course, in the previous purport, Prabhupada said they got salvation. So basically, they all got liberated. Swarupam also means being situated in one's, being liberated from this material, being situated in one's spiritual position. In other purports, Prabhupada explains that depending upon the relationship of these different people who saw Krishna, then they got different destinations. So those who had inimical attitude towards Krishna, so they definitely got purified by seeing Krishna, and they got liberated from this material world, impersonal liberation. But those who were not inimical, then they all achieved the spiritual world. So here, Bhishma Dev, he wants to remember this scene of Krishna as the charioteer. So with the right hand, what he has in the right hand? Whip, chabuk. And left hand, the reins of the horses. And he wants to protect Arjuna's chariots. Prabhupada tells the story of at the end of the war, then Krishna tells Arjuna to first get down from the chariot and go far away. So Arjuna, as a matter of courtesy, Arjuna tells Krishna, no, first you get down, then I will get down. Krishna says, no, you get down first and go away from here. And then so Arjuna goes away, and as soon as Krishna gets down from the chariots, the chariot explodes into 1,000 pieces. The chariot explodes. So the chariot was maintained by Krishna. Only because of Krishna's presence the chariot was maintained. Otherwise the chariot was hit by so many weapons, it could have broken down any moment. But Krishna was maintaining it. That's what is said here also. Vijaya Ratha Kutumbe. Kutumbe, the object of protection at all risk. So the Rath was protected by Krishna at all risks. Here, Prabhupada writes an important point. The concentration of the mystic is mechanical, whereas that of the pure devotee is natural in pure love and spontaneous affection. Bhishma Dev was a pure devotee, and as a military marshal, he constantly remembered the battlefield feature of the Lord as Parthasarthi, the chariot driver of Arjuna. Therefore, the Lord's pastime as Parthasarthi is eternal. The pastimes of the Lord, beginning from his birth at the prison house of Kamsa up to the Mausha Leela, the end, all move one after another in all the universe, just as a clock hand moves from one point to another. And we know the other example also. What is the other example? Yes, just like the sun. So just like the sun moves, so every moment, just like now it is, say 3:40. So once it becomes 3:41 here, then 3:40 will be somewhere else. So in this way, all the timings are eternally present in the universe. So similarly, the Lord's pastimes are also moving like that. So once one pastime gets over in one universe, the same pastime is taking place in some other universe. So that is how it is all Nitya Leela. Every pastime is happening eternally in some material universe. All the pastimes are constantly happening. So therefore, this pastime as Parthasarthi is also eternal. So, and in such pastimes, his associates like Pandavas and Bhishma are constant, eternal companions. So Bhishma Dev is always with Krishna in this pastime. Always, eternal, because the pastime is happening eternally. So Bhishma Dev never forgot the beautiful feature of the Lord as Parthasarthi, which even Arjuna could not see. Arjuna was behind the beautiful Parthasarthi, while Bhishma Dev was just in front of the Lord. So as far as the military feature of the Lord is concerned, Bhishma Dev observed this with more relish than Arjuna. And then he said, all the soldiers and persons on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attain their original spiritual form like the Lord after their death, because by the causeless mercy of the Lord, they were able to see him face to face on that occasion. And then Prabhupada is explaining how the living entities are caught in this material world. And then finally he concludes by saying that so Lord Shri Krishna was not merciful only to the Pandavas, he was also merciful to the other parties because all of them attained the same results. Bhishma Dev wanted the same facility also, and that was his prayer to the Lord, although his position as an associate of the Lord is assured in all circumstances. The conclusion is that whoever dies looking on the personality of Godhead within or without attains the Swarupa, which is the highest perfection of life. ठीक है 40 ललित गति विलास बलगुहास प्रणय निरीक्षण कल्पितोरुमानः कृतमनु कृतवत्य उन्मदान्ध प्रकृतिं मगन किल यस्य गोपवद्वा. Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Shri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Brajadam, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the Rasa dance. Please read the purport.
By intense ecstasy in loving service, the damsels of Brajabhumi attained qualitative oneness with the Lord by dancing with him on an equal level, embracing him in nuptial love, smiling at him in joke, and looking at him with a loving attitude. The relation of Lord with Arjuna is undoubtedly praiseworthy for devotees like Bhishmadev. But the relation of the gopis with the Lord is still more praiseworthy because of their still more purified loving service. By the grace of the Lord, Arjuna was fortunate enough to have the fraternal service of the Lord as chariot driver. But the Lord did not award Arjuna with equal strength. The gopis, however, practically became one with the Lord by attainment of equal footing with the Lord. Bhishma's aspiration to remember the gopis is a prayer to have their mercy also at the last stage of his life. The Lord is satisfied more when his pure devotees are glorified, and therefore Bhishmadev has not only glorified the acts of Arjuna, his immediate object of attraction, but has also remembered the gopis, who were endowed with unrivaled opportunities by rendering loving service to the Lord. The gopis' equality with the Lord should never be misunderstood to be like the Sayuja liberation of the impersonalists. The equality is one of the perfect ecstasy where differential conception is completely eradicated, for the interest of the lover and the beloved becomes identical.
So here we find Bhishmadev is remembering the gopis. Quite interesting. So on one hand he is remembering the battlefield, and then all of a sudden he is remembering the gopis. So why? As Prabhupada is explaining, because he wants the mercy of the gopis, the devotees. Because he perfectly understands that without the mercy of the devotees, one cannot achieve the Supreme Lord. So can you tell some examples, pastimes to illustrate this Siddhanta? Without the mercy of the devotees, one cannot achieve the mercy of the Lord. Yes, Prabhu. क्या हाँ ठीक है हाँ some other person Sarvam Bhattacharya, what happened? Maharaj Pratapruddha meeting with Lord Chaitanya. So where is this Siddhanta shown? No. Who was the devotee? Yes, Ramananda Rai. So because Ramananda Rai gave a favorable report of how Maharaj Pratapruddha favored him by allowing him to resign from his government service with full salary as pension. So Ramananda Rai was very pleased, and so therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that because Maharaj Pratapruddra has pleased a Mahabhagavad devotee like you, therefore very soon he will get Krishna's mercy. That's a very classic pastime. Any other examples? Raghunath Das Goswami approaching Nityananda Prabhu. So therefore Nityananda Prabhu said he is thief. Why? Yes, because he was trying to achieve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. So Nityananda Prabhu wanted to show you can't approach directly. So first you have to go through devotees. Some of them. Amoga. What happened to Amoga? Yes, Amoga got cholera because of his offense, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relieved him of his cholera because of his connection to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. वो नाम कहाँ बताया? That name what you just said, who was offended? Where is this mentioned? Some Brahmana is mentioned. Ashtavakra Brahmana from where it came? Ashtavakra Muni in Mahaprabhu's Leela, I don't know. That is okay, but that name is never mentioned. ठीक है, जो भी है, that's not so important. Okay, ठीक है. So we know that Rupa Goswami's meditation broke because of the offense. Okay, by pleasing devotee one approaches the Lord, one achieves the Lord. Some other examples? Okay, Dukhi became Sukhi. Yes, Dukhi became Sukhi by serving the devotees. So Mahaprabhu gave his mercy not only to this Dukhi, but he gave his mercy to all the servants, maid servants of Srivas Thakur. Anyone connected to Srivas Thakur got full mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of the connection. Yes, Ishwar Puri served his spiritual master. Who? Madhavendra Puri. Okay. Yes, so therefore he got the blessings. He got the blessings of Ishwara Puri, and so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became his disciple. Okay, Sanjay got mercy of Vyas, so therefore he could see. Of course, she served Krishna directly. But here we are talking about serving devotee. That's a good one, yes. So because Prithu Maharaj followed Brahmaji's instructions, therefore Lord Vishnu himself appeared in the sacrificial arena. He was so pleased.
Nalakuvar and Manigriva, they prayed to Krishna because I was Narada Muni.
Okay, yes. So of course they didn't please Narad Muni, but Narad Muni somehow causelessly blessed them.
Narada boy, please Vedanta.
Okay, yes, that's a good example. Narad boy pleasing the Bhakti Vedantas, therefore then Krishna appeared to him. Okay, Chitas and they pleased Lord Shiva. Okay, fine. What to speak of human beings? Even an animal becomes delivered by connection to a devotee. Whose dog? Yes, the dog who joined with the Yatra party. And then somehow the dog received the mercy of Shivananda Sen. And so therefore, even before Shivananda Sen reached Jagannath Puri, the dog had already reached. And Mahaprabhu was personally feeding his remnants to the dog. And the dog went back to Vaikuntha. That is also told, yes. Gajendra, the crocodile took shelter of the lotus feet of Gajendra, who was a devotee. So therefore, the crocodile also was delivered. Yes, Hiranyakashipu, by his connection to Prahlad, then he also got delivered. That's correct. Not only just the father, 21 generations. Okay, fine. So many different examples. So therefore, here Bhishma Dev is remembering the greatest of the devotees, the gopis. So though on one hand he is remembering his Veeraras and all the battlefield scenes, but still in the middle of all that, he is remembering the gopis, the greatest of the devotees. Okay, let's read this commentary here.
Though you are omniscient, the prema that you desire in my charital pastime is in Arjuna alone. It is understood that among all the associates with prema, he is the chief. That is not so. Your dear gopis have the most exalted prema among all devotees. They are superior to Arjuna. No one can dare to pray for their position. Let that be. I'll be successful at my death just by indicating their nature. Thus he speaks this verse.
Okay, so the gopis, topmost devotees, Madhurya Ras. So, therefore, in one sense, in a comparative study, then the gopis are better than Arjuna. Of course, each one is satisfied in his own ras, in his own relationship, but still, in a comparative study, then the Madhurya Ras is supposed to be the highest. And that is what he wants to remember. Another point Prabhupada is making here, it is said, so, okay, so basically, Prabhupada is saying over here that the gopis' equality with the Lord should never be misunderstood to be like the spiritual liberation of the impersonalists. The equality is one of perfect ecstasy where the differential conception is completely eradicated for the interests of the lover and the beloved become identical. So this is oneness of interest, just like in the Ishopanishad, so this word comes, what? Ekatvam anupashyati. So that is also one of the characteristics of the Mahabhagavat, Ekatvam anupashyati. But there the Ekatvam refers to oneness of interest. So here also, oneness of interest between the lover and the beloveds. So that is what is being indicated over here. So Krishna wants to please the gopis want to please Krishna. That is the oneness that has been spoken of here. Okay, text 41. Munigana Nripavarya Sankulayanta Sadasi Yudhishthir Rajasuyesha Arnam Upapeda Ikshaniyo Mama Drishi Gochara Esha Aviratma. At the Rajasuya Yajna sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthir, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and the learned orders, and in the great assembly Lord Shri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remembered the incidents in order to keep my mind upon the Lord. So now he's remembering the Rajasuya Yajna and how the Lord was, as Prabhupada writes in the last paragraph. So in that great assembly, Lord Shri Krishna was a cynosure of neighboring eyes. Cynosure means everyone's eyes was fixed on Krishna. Everyone was just looking at Krishna. No one could take their eyes away from Krishna in that assembly. It was so attractive. Everyone wanted to see Lord Krishna, and everyone wanted to pay his humble respects to the Lord. Bhishmadev remembered all this and was glad that his worshipful Lord, the personality of Godhead, was present before him in his actual formal presence. So to meditate on the Supreme Lord is to meditate on the activities, form, pastimes, name and fame of the Lord. Okay, so all this is meditation. So we are reading the pastimes of the Lord. This is as good as meditating on the Lord. We chant the holy names. That is as good as meditating on the Lord. So anything in relationship to Krishna is as good as meditating on the Lord. That is easier than what is imagined as meditation on the impersonal feature of the Supreme. Meditating on something impersonal is very difficult. Something which has no form, what will meditate? So therefore they imagine some form and meditate on that form. But one gets the greatest benefit by meditating on the form of the Lord in different ways. The devotees, however, meditate upon the Lord's factual form and pastimes, and therefore the Lord is easily approachable by the devotees. Okay. 42. This is the last verse of Bhishma's meditation. Tamimam aham majam sharirabhajam hrididishtitam atmakalpitanam pratidrisham eva nekadharakam ekam samadhigatosmi viduta vedamoha. Now I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord Shri Krishna, now present before me, because now I have transcended the misconceptions of duality in regard to his presence in everyone's hearts, even in the hearts of the mental speculators. He is in everyone's heart. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one. So here he is saying that, so it is the one Krishna who expands himself in all living entities. So just like the one sun, so there is one sun. So even if one goes 1000 kilometers away, that person also will say, where is the sun?
Above my head.
Above my head. Is that a different sun? No, it is the same sun, one sun. So similarly, Krishna is expanding himself as Paramatma in the hearts of all living entities. Is it different Krishna in every heart? No, it is the same Krishna. So now Bhishma Dev is saying, that is what I have realized, that the one Krishna has expanded himself as Paramatma in all the hearts of all the living entities. He is the one who is present everywhere in all the universes, performing different pastimes. It is that one Krishna. So that is what he says, I have realized, and I am meditating on that one Lord Shri Krishna, now present before me. Okay, read this book.
Lord Sri Krishna is one absolute supreme personality of Godhead, but he has expanded himself into him multiplanetary portions by his inconceivable energy. The conception of duality is due to ignorance of his inconceivable energy. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.11, the Lord says that only the foolish take him to be a mere human being. Such foolish men are not aware of his inconceivable energies. By his inconceivable energy, he is present in everyone's heart, as the sun is present before everyone all over the world. The Paramatma feature of the Lord is an expansion of his plenary portion. He expands himself as Paramatma in everyone's heart by his inconceivable energy. And he also expands himself as the glowing effulgence of Brahmajyoti by expansion of his personal glow. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that the Brahmajyoti is his personal glow. Therefore, there is no difference between him and his personal glow, Brahmajyoti, or his plenary portion as Paramatma. Less intelligent persons who are not aware of this fact consider Brahmajyoti and Paramatma to be different from Sri Krishna, different from Sri Krishna. This misconception of duality is completely removed from the mind of Bhishma Dev, and he is now satisfied that it is Lord Sri Krishna only who is all.
The Lord, that is different. So if one has this movement, satisfied.
This enlightenment is attained by the great Mahatmas or devotees. Vasudev is all in everything, and that there is no existence of anything without Vasudev. Vasudev or Lord Sri Krishna is the original Supreme Person, as now confirmed by the Mahajan, and therefore both the neophyte and the pure devotees must try to follow in his footsteps. That is the way of the devotional line. The perceivable object of Vishnudev is Lord Sri Krishna as Parthasarthi, and that of the gopis is the same Krishna in Vrindavan as the most attractive Shyama Sundar. Sometimes less intelligent scholars make a mistake and think that the Krishna of Vrindavan and that of the battle of Kurukshetra are different personalities. But for Vishnudev, this misconception is completely removed. Even the impersonalist object of destination is Krishna as the impersonal Jyoti, and the yogi's destination of Paramatma is also Krishna. Krishna is both Brahmajyoti and localized Paramatma, but in Brahmajyoti or Paramatma there is no Krishna or sweet relation with Krishna. In his personal feature, Krishna is both Parthasarathi and Shyam Sundar of Vrindavan. But in his impersonal feature, he is neither in the Brahmajyoti nor in the Paramatma. Great Mahatmas like Vishnudev realize all these different features of Lord Sri Krishna, and therefore they worship Lord Krishna, knowing him as the origin of all features.
Okay, so both Brahmajyoti and Paramatma are Krishna, but then it is incomplete realization, it is not complete. But within the Bhagavan realization, there is both Brahmajyoti and Paramatma realization, because that is complete. So in this way, Bhishma Dev got the perfect realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 43. So the Goswami said, thus Bhishma Dev merged himself in the Super Soul Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight and actions, and thus he became silent and his breathing stopped. Okay, so this is good verse for the Mayavadis, isn't it? He merged in the Super Soul. Atmani Atmanam Aveshya. He merged. Atmani is the Super Soul. Atmanam is the living being. Aveshya, merged. But how did he merge? With his mind, speech, sight and actions. Mano, Vak, Drishti, Vrittivi. That is how he merged. That means all his bodily functions were totally focused on Krishna. So Prabhupada says the stage attained by Bhishma Dev while quitting his material body is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, because he merged his self into thinking of the Lord and his mind into remembering his different activities. He chanted the glories of the Lord. By his sight he began to see the Lord personally present before him, and thus all his activities became concentrated upon the Lord without deviation. This is the highest stage of perfection, and it is possible for everyone. Not only for Bhishma Dev, it is possible for everyone to attain this stage. How? By practice of devotional service. So by practice, anyone can attain the stage that Bhishma Dev attained. So then he talks about the 9 Navida Bhakti. And then he says the first item, hearing, is the most important item of all, and therefore hearing of the Bhagavad Gita and later on Srimad Bhagavatam is essential for the serious candidate who wants to attain the stage of Bhishma Dev at the end. Okay? So we are all trying to hear so that we can also attain the stage of Bhishma Dev. The unique situation at Bhishma Dev's time of death can be attained even though Lord Krishna may not be personally present. His words of the Bhagavad Gita or those of Srimad Bhagavatam are identical with the Lord. They are sound incarnations of the Lord, and one can fully utilize them to be entitled to attain the stage of Sri Bhishma Dev, who was one of the 8 Vasus. Every man or animal must die at a certain stage of life, but one who dies like Bhishma Dev attains perfection, and one who dies forced by the laws of nature dies like an animal. That is the difference between man and animal. The human form of life is especially meant for dying like Bhishma Dev. Text 44. Knowing that Bhishma Dev had merged into the unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute, all present there became silent like birds at the end of the day. So there are 2 meanings for this verse. So one is Yes, everyone became silent, understanding that Bhishma Dev had attained the supreme abode. Now here again it says what? Merged. Bhishmam Brahmani Nishkale. He merged into the Brahmani. So therefore Prabhupada, right in the first sentence he clarifies. To enter into or to become merged into the unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute means to enter the original home of the living. So right in the first sentence Prabhupada clarifies what is this merging into Brahman. So it means to go back to the spiritual worlds, especially because this is a great devotee like Bhishma Dev. Okay, so let's read this also. Read.
An example of ignorance is given: birds thinking that the day has been destroyed at the end of the day because they cannot see it, become silent. The day has not actually been destroyed because one understands that after some time that day still exists, since after 12 hours daylight appear again. The ignorant think that when Bhishma passed away, he attained liberation. The intelligent understand that at that very moment, in an invisible form, Bhishma fight on the ground with the Krishna holding the chariot wheel in his hand, and that in a future appearance of Krishna, Bhishma will also appear with him.
So here the example of the birds, everyone became silent like the birds. So here he is explaining that the birds indicate ignorant people. So just like the birds, they ignorantly think that the day is finished, it's destroyed. At the end of the day, when night comes, they think the day is finished, the day has been destroyed. So they consider that the reappearance of, they don't think that the day is once again going to appear. They think the day is finished once and for all. खत्म हो गया. तो फिर अगले दिन क्या है? वो दूसरा दिन है. So they don't understand that basically it is the same thing. So similarly, those who are ignorant think that Bhishma, he attained liberation. He just got liberated. But the fact is that Bhishma Dev continues to remain eternally in the Lord's pastimes. So that is the actual situation. Nitya Leela. So therefore he says, so at that very moment, when Bhishma Dev finished his pastimes here on this planet, in this universe, immediately he went somewhere else, in some other universe, to perform the same pastime. So that is what is meant by Nitya Leela. It is continuously going on. So Bhishma Dev, therefore, is eternal associate. So he is constantly going from one universe to the other. Wherever the Lord is performing this pastime, Bhishma Dev is present. So therefore, the comparison to the birds is given. So the birds have been compared to ignorant people. So Prabhupada is of course explaining about Jnanis and all that. And Jnanis, Yogis, Bhaktas. So Prabhupada explains, Jnanis and Yogis enter into the impersonal race of the Supreme, but the Bhaktas enter into the spiritual planets known as the Vaikunthas. In these spiritual planets, the Supreme Lord as Narayan predominates, and the healthy, unconditioned living beings live there by rendering loving service to the Lord in the capacity of servant, friend, parents, and fiancé. Okay? So, and in the last paragraph, Prabhupada writes, Bhishma Dev, as a pure devotee of the Lord, entered the spiritual realm in one of the Vaikuntha planets, where the Lord, in his eternal form of Parthasarthi, predominates over the conditioned living beings who are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. The love and affection which bind the Lord and the devotee are exhibited In the case of Bhishmadev, Bhishmadev never forgot the Lord in his transcendental feature as the Parthasarathi, for the Lord was present personally before Bhishmadev while he was passing to the transcendental world. That is the highest perfection of life. Text 45. Thereafter both men and demigods sounded drums in honor, and the honest royal order commenced demonstrations of honor and respect, and from the sky fell showers of flowers. So who was showering the flowers? Yes, even the demigods were happy. So Prabhupada writes, the showering of flowers from heaven is a sign of recognition by great demigods, and it should never be compared to the decoration of a dead body. The body of Bhishmadev lost its material effects due to being surcharged with spiritual realization, and thus the body was spiritualized as when iron becomes red hot when in contact with fire. And then he says, Jayanti. Jayanti should not be imitated for any ordinary common man. Text 46. O descendant of Bhrigu Shaunaka, after performing funeral rituals for the dead body of Bhishmadev, Maharaj Yudhishthira was momentarily overtaken with grief, because he was remembering how Bhishmadev took care of them. So towards the end of this purport, Prabhupada says, he was sorry for the separation of a great soul, not for the material body which Bhishmadev relinquished. Okay, so we discussed this point before. The funeral ceremony was a necessary duty, although Bhishmadev was a liberated soul. Since Bhishmadev was without issue, the eldest grandson, namely Maharaj Yudhishthira, was the rightful person to perform the ceremony. It was a great boon to Bhishmadev that an equally great son of the family undertook the last rites of a great man. 47. All the great sages then glorified Lord Shri Krishna, who was present there, by confidential Vedic hymns. Then all of them returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their hearts. So here also, Prabhupada writes that due to unalloyed love and devotion for the Lord, the devotees always see Him within themselves, and the Lord also, although He has nothing to do and nothing to aspire to, is always busy in attending to the welfare of His devotees. For the ordinary living beings, the laws of nature is there for all actions and reactions, but He is always anxious to put His devotees on the right path. The devotees therefore are under the direct care of the Lord. Okay, so we discussed these points. The devotees are under the direct care of the Lord, and the Lord also voluntarily puts Himself under the care of His devotees only. Okay, text 48. Thereafter Maharaj Yudhishthira at once went to his capital, Hastinapur, accompanied by Lord Shri Krishna, and there he consoled his uncle and aunt Gandhari, who was an ascetic. So both of them were in distress because they lost all their sons on the battlefield. And now they also lost Bhishma. So therefore they were in distress. Text 49. After this, the great religious king Maharaj Yudhishthira executed the royal power in the kingdom strictly according to the codes and royal principles approved by his uncle and confirmed by Lord Shri Krishna. Thus, in the Bhagavad purports of the first canto, 9th chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Passing Away of Bhishmadev in the Presence of Lord Krishna. So you announced the open book test? Announced? Yeah, already? भेज दिया ना? ठीक है. Okay, anyway, we'll just tell something. So you got this question, na? What you're supposed to write? Okay, the 7th question of this 9th chapter. Discuss points from Bhishmadev's departure, particularly relevant for your practice of Krishna consciousness and society at large. Give reference to 1.9.29 to 43 verses and purports in yours. Okay, so that's quite a big range. So 29. So basically, it is these prayers. So basically, it is the passing away of Bhishmadev, the last part of the chapter. Okay. So from this section, that we just finished. There are two subheadings you can say. What are they? Own practice of Krishna consciousness and society at large. Okay, so relevant points for application. So we were discussing, so many points we were discussing for personal application as we were going through. The art of leaving, how to leave the body, meditating on the Supreme Lord. So, meditating on the Supreme Lord by what? By any of the process of devotional service. We discussed all services are on the absolute platform. So many points we were discussing. Krishna's love for his devotee, how the Lord reciprocates with his devotees, how we can please the Lord only by pleasing the devotees. So many points we were discussing. Points mostly we discussed from devotees' perspective, but then the same points also apply for the society at large. So even for the society at large, the point of successfully leaving the body still applies for everyone. That point applies for everyone. And how one can come to that stage of remembrance of Krishna by practicing devotional service. It applies to everyone within society. Everyone needs to practice devotional service for that perfection of human life. Yes, appreciation of devotees, serving devotees, accepting a bona fide spiritual master. So all these are principles for, yes, the society at large. So like that, so you can take some points and explain them. Maybe 4 or 5 points for each of these categories. But all the points should have reference. Every point you write must have reference from where you have got this point. Without reference, no meaning. Okay, and then you explain briefly how it is applicable either for one's own life, your practice, right? Personally, me, I, how this will be relevant for me, and then for society. So for each of them, write a few points with references. Clear how to write? Huh? Now this question is clear?
Yes.
What is your question?
So, in the 16th verse purport that we read this morning, so towards the end, Prabhupada writes that we were discussing that vice cannot conquer virtue. So Prabhupada mentioning that Krishna wanted to establish this principle also, that whoever it may be, like a powerful warrior like Bhishma, but he cannot win on the wrong side. So this is one of the principles also that Krishna wanted to establish. And then 34 purport, Prabhupada mentions about although Krishna was disturbed by the sharpened arrows of Bhishma Dev, but then he didn't mind, he was perfectly happy with the wounds caused by these sharpened arrows. So, like just wanted to ask that, like Krishna had a desire to experience Virya Rasa, that he desired with Jai Vijay also, and that's how that Leela happens. Same with Bhishma Dev also, that Krishna had desired this Virya Rasa, and also Bhishma Dev has a desire to see the Lord in this form, Vijay Sakya, as we will see. The point is, although this is not pure devotional service, Bhishma Dev himself recalls that how gopis are the topmost actually in trying to serve Krishna. So, like for us as a practicing devotee, like, is it a right kind of a desire? Because here it's a very challenging situation. How to
So what do you
understand,
mean by what right kind of desire?
in the sense, to be able to experience that particular rasa. Of course, Krishna wants it and devotee also wants it. But in Krishna also trying to establish that don't be wrong, otherwise you will be defeated, certainly. Because if you take a wrong side, then whoever you are, whether you want to experience Virya Rasa or whatever.
You are mixing two things. One thing is rasa, and second thing is duty. So, between Bhishma and Krishna there is Virras. And both of them are satisfied in that transcendental relationship. Now, Krishna also, he inspired Bhishma Dev to take the side of the opposite party. If he didn't inspire Bhishma Dev to take the side of the opposite party, then how Viraras will come into the picture?
Correct. That is the background required to be.
Correct. Right. So, when Krishna performs a pastime, many things are achieved simultaneously. So, Viraras also is satisfied. Krishna wants to establish anyone takes the side of adharma, he cannot win. So, everything is accomplished in one pastime. So, what's the question?
Question is then, is that character, like how to understand the character then?
Which character? Bhishma Dev.
Bhishma Dev's
Bhishma Dev is a
character.
perfect devotee of the Lord, that's all. And so, he is perfectly acting according to the Lord's plan.
And what kind of like,
That is lesson for us to learn. What Prabhupada is writing, that is lesson for us to learn, which Krishna wanted to give also. Krishna wanted to teach us that lesson through Bhishma Dev. That is for us. That is not lesson for Bhishma Dev. That lesson is for us. As far as Bhishma Dev is concerned, he is perfect in his relation with Krishna. He is happy, Krishna is happy. No problem. Between them there is no problem. Lesson is for us.
so what then we should take? Should we try to be on the dharma side or should we desire that I want to serve Krishna in
Are
this area?
Baba, after whole Mahabharata is over, what question you are asking?
No, I mean,
After discussing Vipra Dharma Chuta, you are asking whether we should take side of that. Of
Because-
course,
because here-
if Krishna wants you to take side of adharma, that is another thing. Otherwise, normally, obviously, we have to follow dharma. There is no doubt about that.
yeah, so basically,
But just like Krishna told Yudhishthira to tell a lie, so similarly, we also discussed that point, right? Transcendental cheating and all that. So if somebody, bona fide person instructs you to do something adharmic for a higher cause, then you can do that. But in all normal circumstances, one has to follow dharma. And of course, the highest dharma is to act according to Krishna's plan. Okay? And ultimately, what is dharma? Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. The desires of the Lord, the instructions of the Lord, this is all what is meant by dharma. And so Bhishma Dev was perfectly following dharma. Why? Why? Bhishma Dev was following dharma, huh? Yes, because he was following Lord's plan. From Bhishma Dev's perspective, it was perfect. But we have to learn that lesson, that even if somebody as powerful as Bhishma Dev takes the side of adharma, he will be destroyed. That is for us to learn.
then in the 39th purport, this Prabhupada mentioned in such pastimes his associates like the Pandavas and Bhishma are constant internal companions. And then you were discussing about his hand of the clock and like the sun also. So these are associates who are eternal companions. Then by the same analogy, then we can prove that even demons are associates of like eternal companions.
Which demons?
All the demons. Because
You mean to say the
Bhishma then, like
demons in Vrindavan Leela?
yeah, all the demons.
Yes.
And also everyone.
Yes. Correct. Otherwise, how the pastime will take place without them?
Yeah. So how to understand that, like demons, they are acting against Krishna, but they are with Krishna. So Krishna cannot choose somebody else who are not eternal associate. That is one way to understand.
So indirectly, you're asking whether Duryodhana and demons are also eternal associates.
Yeah. But otherwise,
So
how
what do
that
you think?
pastime will happen?
So what do you think? They are also eternal associates?
Yes, has to be, because otherwise how Krishna will choose them? You understood really what I am asking?
Yes, yes.
By this analogy,
The demons are also eternal associates. So you mean to say that they're also quite good, that means. They're also eternal associates. So see, it's not necessary that it is as far as these devotees are concerned, they're all eternal companions, eternal associates of the Lord. The demons who are coming in that particular Leela, in that particular universe, need not be the same jivas. They could be some other jivas who are playing that role. So therefore the Leela is eternal, but as far as the demons who are playing that role in that particular Leela may not be the same jivas. So then Krishna arranges other demoniac souls to take those roles. So otherwise then both demons and devotees, both are eternal associates. Very nice. Then what is the difference? So, no. Otherwise, it would have been mentioned like that, no? That both the devotees and demons are eternal companions. It's never mentioned like that. Only the devotees are mentioned. So only the devotees are eternal companions. And then Krishna orchestrates different jivas to take those roles in different universes. Alright, so we are concluding for today. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Aditya Ram Prabhu, Advait Karuna Prabhu, Akshobhya Prabhu, Anand Narsam Prabhu. सुबह गायब हो गया चैतन्य जीवन प्रभु चैतन्य शास्त्री प्रभु दुर्गा प्रसाद प्रभु गोपालानंद प्रभु हरिनारायण